In this video I'll take a look at how we can import context models, concepts and proposals into the EcoTect environment using different kind of formats and speeding up the process. I've now opened the conceptual environment within EcoTect, and in this tutorial I want to show some different methods for bringing in context elements and proposals and more physical, correct building information models into EcoTect analysis. So here is just a simple context that I imported from Revit, and you're also able to import from multiple other applications into this program. Then here I have an example of just a very simple form proposal, because sometimes you'll just need some very simple surface models within here, because looking at things like shadows and solar radiation analysis, it's more easy to set up the analysis just having a simple model. But when you move on in the simulation process, you might want to begin looking at things like thermal simulations inside EcoTect, and that's where you can use GPXML to import a zone model into EcoTect. And then I'm often using an overlay model that I can overlay with more visual geometry that I can bring in from 3ds Max Design from Revit, taking it into 3ds Max Design and then exporting it as a 3ds file. So I just opened an empty EcoTect file here, and I want to show how we can import context as DXF from Revit or another application as 3D CAD geometry. So I'm going to this brief here, context export, and I'm just pulling in the DXF file into EcoTect. And then it's great that when you import 3D CAD geometry, you have this preview window, so you will able to go through and isolate to say, okay, I don't want to have these elements in here, say ignore, or just to figure out what is what in here. So these elements here are my context elements. I want to just sort them out a bit. So first of all, I want to select a material, and I already made a material within inside this file. So I'm saying select existing material and just going here to say okay, context model, say okay, and I want to give or import this model into a specific zone. So I'm going to zone, add new zone, and let's call this context DXF. Okay, you can also, if you're working in Revit or Vasari, you can effectively use the conceptual energy analysis and set up the context into the cloud and then exporting it as a GPXML file to EcoTect, and that will allow you to work also with putting on materials on roofs and other surfaces here. The program will know from default, based on the orientation, what kind of elements are walls and roofs in this model here. So now I'm ready and I can save this translation out. So if I'm doing modifications on the model and I want to load it in again, I can just load this translation and I don't have to set up these settings again. So I'm just saying importing to existing, and I'm marking out auto merge triangulars, and that's something that you could do with inside EcoTect, and I'm going into that in a video about how to optimize geometry. So I'm just saying import, and now I'm imported a very simple context model that I can use for doing pre-analysis of the site and physical elements on the specific place we want to build. And you see that it's grouped in here. Okay. So the next thing I want to show is how to bring in a proposal model as GPXML. So I'm going to turn off the geometry or the context that I imported. I'm going to go down to the folder like that, and I'm going to this folder here, and I'm going to export GPXML, taking this here proposal, and I'm pulling it into the model like that. And now I will have a summary of all the spaces. I unfortunately don't have the ability to preview the files here, so it takes a bit more time to map to say okay, this is a basic wall, that's a wall, this is a window, I need to set that as a window and go through this list and set it up, and you can save this again, so it's a bit more effective. And then you can just say importing to existing, and I'm now importing the model. So as you'll see here, this model requires a bit more prep work before it's done doing simulations with inside EcoTect. but that's what happens a lot of times when you import geometry, but this is just to show how this is working. So the last thing I want to show is how to bring in a more detailed model, and I just have a bit of other example from another tutorial. It's a project from Rubo Architects, and I'm just going to pull it in here, and now you see that this is really an import as a DXF file from Revit, and that's not really working too hard in here. So I just want to cancel this and just show you how effective it is that if you bring in the model into 3ds Max Design and then export it as a 3ds file, then you won't have any problems with millions and stuff like that. And then you can quickly go through this list here to say, okay, what's this? This is my windows. Set that as set that window like that, and then pretty much ready to import the model, and just say import into existing, and then I'm importing a very clean model into EcoTech Analysis. So now it's merged all the triangulars and the geometry, and I can go in here and just have a look at how sweet this model is brought in using that bit of workaround here. Another way that you can use is that within Revit to isolate walls and windows and stuff like that, and just import the elements in different files, so you'll be able to control and go in and work a bit more with the model.